Hey guys, and welcome to my video ranking of 10 trophies that were more trouble than they were worth. Today we're talking about trophies that had a complete mismatch of effort and payoff. Trophies that you couldn't even bring yourself to be excited about achieving when you finally got them, because they were far too much of a pain to begin with. Trophies that were probably the last ones you needed for the 100%, and you may as well get them since you've come this far, so that the game isn't on your list anymore. As usual, I'm only going to be discussing games I either know from experience or have heard friends talk about enough that I feel like I could comfortably explain it here. So if you're looking for a basic copy-paste list, look elsewhere. This is free-range trauma. Before we begin, please like the video, comment some of your painfully unworthwhile trophies, and subscribe to me here on YouTube. I post gaming content as often as I can, be it reviews, rankings, or discussion, so make sure to stick around so you don't miss another video from me. And know that you're right now at the tail end of a ranking playlist, so consider picking through that and checking through the other rankings I've been making. Thank you for listening, and let's get on with the video. What could be worse than trophies that ask for absolute perfection? Buggy trophies that ask for absolute perfection. Assassin's Creed VALHALLA rounded off its first season pass with the Mastery Challenges, a genius bit of DLC that added fun and rewarding mini-missions to complete, themed around combat, stealth, and archery. Genuinely, it's the best DLC they made for that game, in my opinion at least. The other DLCs just added more of the same, more collectibles, more cleanup, more busy work, but this one was new and it tested my skills in a way that I really loved. I personally adore challenge-based DLCs. I love ticking off levels and working through a list of specific trials in contained areas. These challenges weren't easy either, most required a good amount of trial and error, and asked for genuine effort in a game that's more geared towards switching your brain off than it is actually applying yourself. The only problem with these? They were buggy. Hopefully they've been patched a bit more now, but these challenges sat on the shakiest foundations at launch. The combat challenges were fine and doable with absolutely no problem, but the stealth challenges were touch and go, and the archery challenges were straight up broken no matter which version of the game you were playing. Stealth trials were plagued by janky AI. You'd fire an arrow across the map from inside a bush, and the NPC 100 feet away would detect you before it even hit them. NPCs would sometimes just see you from around walls or from miles away when you were in cover. Whether or not you managed it was down to pure luck, but you could manage it. In the archery challenges, NPCs would spawn right outside of the boundaries of the map and would be immune to any damage. NPCs would aggro on you, try and shoot you, hit the breakable ledge they were on, and fall to their death. NPCs would aggro on you from several rooms away and fall off the platform they were stood on, and 10 minutes later you would just find them dead. You'd have a challenge to kill enemies by hitting their weak spots, but their hitboxes would clip into each other, and even a fair and square headshot from 2 feet away wouldn't count because it had accidentally clipped into their torso hitbox or their arm hitbox. This rendered most of the archery challenges a feat of pure RNG. I know that Ubisoft intended to fix the bugs in this mode, so maybe this is a thing of the past, but it's a phenomenon that left me with a bitter taste in my mouth at the memory. The problem was that enemies that killed themselves by accident didn't count as kills and you didn't earn any points for them. And to get gold in every mission, and therefore this trophy, you needed to get perfect scores on every challenge. If there was just a bit of wiggle room to account for these bugs, it wouldn't have been an issue, but trying a challenge over and over and over again just to lose out to a faulty hitbox or finding 6 crucial NPCs dead before you even arrived is beyond ass. That's if you could even start the challenges. I, like many others, had to revert to a much earlier save just to access them, because they just broke for me and the NPC that gives you the challenges wouldn't talk to me. The only fix at the time involved just restarting from a previous save and hoping for the best. Well, it was a well-intentioned DLC at least, Ubisoft. Thank you for the effort. For those of you that have been subjected to this trophy, Godspeed, because it is shit. Rockstar are known for making you crawl for your basic trophies, but the trophy waste management for getting all the nuclear waste scattered around Los Santos asks you to drive around the island of GTA 5 in a slow, clunky submarine using a radar system to grab every individual piece of nuclear waste that's been left on the ocean floor. It's a task in excess of tedium, a statement that kind of sounds like a Church of England school motto. This is something that takes close to 2 or 3 hours of just moving around the pitch black ocean floor at a glacial pace, the slow beeping of the radar being the only noise. There are cool Easter eggs down here, enormous skeletons of unknown Lovecraftian monsters, submerged alien spaceships, planes, but it's not enough to staunch the flow of boredom, and despite the whistle-stop tour of underwater coolness, you'll be wishing this was over pretty soon after you start. I've done this on the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 version of GTA 5, and I will probably do it on the PlayStation 5 version too, but every time I've done it I've just slapped a film on and half concentrated on the dull drag of a submarine through the sea. It's the only way to get through it. The first time I did it, I watched Spirited Away actually, which was pretty cool, but I don't remember what the second choice was, so I don't imagine it was very impressive my second time round. Midsummer, maybe? But I like Midsummer, so I don't think so. Trophy-wise, you crawl around the circumference of the island very slowly, occasionally getting snagged on shallow sand and having to take the long way around stupid peninsulas and navigate little caves, and it just takes so long. I think it's a combination of the unusual submarine controls, the snail pace of the movement, the three-dimensional movement, the number of collectibles, the fiddliness of some of the locations, the space between them, the fact that you can't have music playing, the basicness of the radar. All of these are just bricks and a teetering Lego tower of misery. It's weird because I do like collectibles and their related trophies, but this one is a real jerk of an objective. And even for people who I know love slow and easy trophies, it's just a bit extreme. The trophies are bronze too, which is the penny stock of trophy hunting, and I suppose it's not a task that merits something like a silver, but I just don't think it's a task that merits a trophy at all. Don't bother next time, Rockstar. Imagine a missable trophy. Now imagine a missable trophy that takes about 40 hours of careful consideration, a vaguely planned route, and a selection of backup saves in case you fuck up. Now imagine that it's also a collectible trophy, with 119 unique cards to collect spread across the course of an entire 40-hour game, 5 maps, and multiple in-game characters, many of whom move around or disappear, or at least would disappear pre-patch. And now we have Card Collector, a deceptively dreadful trophy found in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt that asks you to collect one of every single unique Gwent card in the base game. For the uninitiated, Gwent, at least in the base game, has 4 unique suits and several neutral cards. Imagine Magic the Gathering, except instead of lands and enchantments, we've got Northern Realms, Nilfgaard, Scoia'tael, and monsters. They all have their own strengths, weaknesses, and abilities, and there's no real best set in the right hands, so it's a fun, balanced game that you have to spend a lot of time in for that coveted platinum trophy. The problem with Card Collector, however, is that it is a mess. 12 of the cards are missable, locked off by side quests or main quests that either kill NPCs or just have them disappear off the map forever, meaning you could cuck yourself of this even if you didn't mean to. Depending on which version of the game you're playing and which patch, that number will go up. In the base edition of the game, you'd have minute windows to grab cards from NPCs that you would never see again. You'll notice that you've missed a card because you'll suddenly be told that you failed the Card Collector quest, but if you've not had the planning to make backup saves, or if you just didn't notice it, then you're fucked. You have to win cards off of NPCs. Some of them, like the Nilfgaardian nobleman who hangs out in the Nilfgaard embassy, has a really high level deck but can be met very early in the game, presumably to encourage you to come back and fight him later. However, he disappears after a certain point in the story and he never returns. Nobody knows why, there's no known fix for this, so you know, that's a worry. Some cards are on merchants and captives that need to be saved from bandit camps, but the bandit camps can glitch and the key can sometimes just not appear. Furthermore, once you've saved them, they can die on the walk back to their settlement, or their pathing can fuck up, so it's encouraged to literally walk back with them to prevent this. The rest of them can be bought, won, or just found, but fucking hell, if this one trophy doesn't consume about 15 hours of your time getting this platinum, all things considered. Cards don't carry over to New Game Plus if you're wondering, so you can't pick up where you left off and grab the remaining Gwenties on a new playthrough. If you start a new game, you collect every single card from scratch. I hope you like the main quest, because you'll be doing it a lot. For those of you that played the Demon's Souls remake released with the launch of the PS5, you'll never need to know the true tedium of the original Demon's Souls Platinum. Let's face it, FromSoft makes brilliant games, but terrible trophy lists. Oh, collect all the spells, oh, beat all the bosses, oh, get all the endings. It's droll, it's uninspired. But nothing was as droll and uninspired as the original trophy list for the 2009 release of Demon's Souls. For that esteemed Platinum trophy, you needed to make the best possible version of every single weapon. Similar to Dark Souls 1 actually, which had you make max level versions of all weapon types, crystal weapons, fire weapons, chaos weapons, etc. Except those weapons all had generic upgrade materials, whereas Demon's Souls weapon types all had their own specific upgrade materials that needed to be farmed. Some of them could even be lost in a playthrough, as they only spawned on crystal lizards, which only had a set amount of spawns per new game cycle. There was Marrow Stone, Sucker Stone, Sharp Stone, Dragon Stone. Only certain weapons worked with them too, so you needed to find many shards, many chunks, and the correct weapon for them. Every weapon's final upgrade level needed a pure stone, a pure dragon stone, a pure sucker stone, a pure marrow stone, etc. Some of them could be earned from NPCs for completing certain quest lines, some of them could be found on bosses, some of them could be traded or just found in the overworld, but some were much more trouble than that. The most infamous of these was pure bladestone. Pure bladestone was an extremely rare spawn and an extremely tough enemy, commonly referred to as, quite specifically, the Black Katana Skeleton, with abysmal drop rates that you could only increase by dying loads in the world, making making the world harder as a result, and therefore increasing drop rates of rare items. But that made it so much harder to kill the skeletons, so you'd often die trying. It's a bit of a mindfuck. It took me 45 rerolls to farm Bladestone myself, but that's on the luckier end of things. For many people it takes hours of rerolls, and for one amazing individual it took 8 years. This is my favourite post on the internet. Enjoy it. Secondly, the original Demon Souls had a buggy luck stat. This meant that leveling luck actually caused luck to decrease, so if you pumped all of your numbers into luck in the hope of increasing those drop rates, well, you would be fresh out of luck. Thankfully, the remake did away with all that nonsense. I mean, you still need pure Bladestone if you ever hope to grab all of the rings, but hey, at least they fixed the drop rates. This one's a bit more of a whinge on my part, but I would be interested to see if anybody else had the same thing. Greece isn't the kind of game you would expect to find on a list like this. It's roughly a 2-hour experience, split into levels representing the stages of grief. It's super linear, super simple, and for the platinum, you essentially need to finish the game and collect all the mementos, a kind of glowing shape in the air often found tucked away and hidden, or after a difficult set of platforming. There are a few miscellaneous trophies too though, roughly one for every stage of grief, and while some of them were annoying, see the eel, one of them wound me up so hard, mainly because it was 70% my fault that it even did so in the first place. Apples is a trophy that asks you to feed the forest friend, a little square-shaped bloke with a bunch of leaves on his head. Said friend follows you at a distance for a while, but as you give him more apples, he warms up to you and eventually helps you on your journey. There are a few unmissable apples as you go, but one in particular I missed so badly that when I came back to it, I spaced out for just a moment and I missed it again. The window is very small and weirdly subtle, so you can easily walk right past it if you lapse in attention for even a moment. This particular apple sits on top of a huge wall. Your friend will jump onto said wall about halfway along, then you need to backtrack and lead the friend with you to eat that apple. If you walk forward, your friend jumps off the wall and you are locked out of the trophy for the rest of the playthrough until you can get back to chapter select. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I would start that level specifically to grab that apple, then forget along the way, the friend would hop up onto the wall, and in the second it took me to walk forward with him and watch him leap off, I would realise what I was doing, shout no, and then watch as he dropped to the floor again, leaving the apple intact at the top. It was my 3rd or 4th attempt at getting this trophy that actually saw me get it, and only with extreme concentration and focus on the task at hand. Otherwise I would have just gotten distracted by something pretty and walked him right off that wall again. This one was my fault, really. I do not know how I fucked this that badly. By this point in time, most of you will have played Skyrim, or the remaster of Skyrim, or the legendary version of Skyrim, or the re-release, or the Switch version. Whichever version of Skyrim you've played, you'll probably at least be familiar with the Thieves Guild, if not thoroughly so, since they're a better questline than the Companions or the Mages Guild, so most people go for them just to have fun with the game, as wild as that sounds. Either way, one common query, particularly for people going for the 100%, is how to return the Thieves Guild to its former glory, an evasive trophy that doesn't immediately present itself, because the questline ends after Mercer goes off, so is it a glitch? Why won't anyone in the guild give me the next quest? It's not. To restore the Thieves Guild to its former glory, you need to take on the Radiant quests from Vex and Delvin, two of the least approachable people on the planet, in specific cities a certain number of times. More specifically, you need to do 5 quests in Markarth, Solitude, Whiterun, and Wilhelm respectively, and then one final summary quest in each city to secure your holdings there. If you get given a quest in a city you don't need, it's best to just straight up give the quest back and get shouted at before loading up the dialogue and immediately asking for a new quest. They'll let you forfeit as many quests as you want, but by god they'll give you a horrible time for it. And you'll almost always be left with Markarth, because there's only a 1 in 27 chance that jobs spawn there, so you'll just be stood in front of Vex and Delvin, getting yelled at on cooldown until you finally have all the quests you need. With the PS5 loading times, this is a piece of piss, and easily less than a 2 or 3 hour job, but back on the PS3, the PS4, god, it was mind-numbing. Thank Christ for the SSD. 20 Radiant quests and 5 proper quests later, you'll be pulled into a room with Brynjolf and friends, and they'll really awkwardly declare you Guildmaster in one of the stiffest, worst, unskippable little events I've ever had the misfortune of experiencing.
With that in mind, I propose that the position of Guildmaster should be yours. Delvin? Agree. Vex?
Sure, why not?
Carlia?
Absolutely.
Everyone is in agreement. So all I can do now is name you Guildmaster and wish you good fortune and long life. Now everyone, get back to work.
I suppose you deserve it. Couldn't do any worse than Mercer anyway.
When they're done, they all just walk off in different directions and start saying their random proximity dialogue. So you suddenly have a room full of people telling you they're too busy to chat. Come on, Skyrim, I played you to escape my childhood, why are you making me relive it? BioShock 2's multiplayer was deceptively simple. It was essentially a team deathmatch that allowed you to use powers from the main game, and at some point would spawn a Big Daddy suit that was so beautifully unbalanced that everybody would just rush to grab it so that they could shit on everybody else. It was alright, not fantastic, largely considered dog shit, but with some interesting ideas. Now, BioShock 2 asked one request that for the trophy Choose the Impossible, you grind all the way to level 40 in said multiplayer. This required 97,000 Adam, which should take around 15 to 20 hours even without boosting, luckily. What's unlucky? Well, the DLC Rapture Metro added another trophy, Reincarnation. Reincarnation asked you to prestige, meaning you would need to achieve level 50 and then prestige back to level 1. Now, although it only takes 20 hours to casually hit level 40 in the main list, it takes another 30 hours to play casually to level 50 due to the inflated Adam requirements and the fact that you're playing alongside other level 40s, all of them with insta-kill kits and lots of practice. It's 163,000 Adam total, meaning that if you are level 40, you would need 66,000 Adam more, i.e. 2/3 of the XP required to get to level 40 in the first place. The same amount of XP required to get from level 13 to level 40 gets you from level 40 to level 50. With a boost, it's 10 hours, so it's recommended to do it that way. And I mean, since the servers are dead, the only way you can do it is by boosting now, so go ham. Marvel's Spider-Man is always everyone's first platinum trophy. Seriously, follow r/trophies on Reddit and it's like 3 times a day someone will drop in there and post about how humbled and grateful they are to announce that Spider-Man is their first ever platinum trophy, and here's to many more. Either that or Bloodborne, it's always one of the two. Don't get me wrong, I'm more impressed than I sound, mainly because of the sheer amount of bullshit you have to willingly put up with to drag your way to the platinum for Marvel's Spider-Man. It's weird, some games are great but they have terrible platinum lists, whereas some games are terrible but have awesome platinum lists. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, two fast-paced, gory shooter games, have terrible platinum lists, being that you're required to grab every collectible in the collectible saturated game, meaning you're stopping and starting constantly just to make sure you're not missing them. Great games, terrible lists. Alternatively, I love Resident Evil 3, but I can acknowledge it steps so far out of the boundary of Resident Evil gameplay that they're not even in the same postcode, but the trophy list is very fun, engaging, and asks you to make the most of every single difficulty, fulfill a bunch of miscellaneous objectives, and grab a lot less collectibles. Bad game, subjectively of course, but good trophy list. Spider-Man is a very fun game that's all about traversal, combat, stealth, and story. The characters are blessed, the story is interesting, the boss fights are brilliant, and the collectibles are, well, at first they're okay. But as the main quest goes along, you unlock more and more of them, and after a while they start to really take the piss. There are crimes and gang hideouts in Spider-Man, and initially there will be like 5 of each per district with a total of maybe 25, but as you go on and aggro more factions and make more enemies, you'll get more and more crimes and more hideouts. And they are long, repetitive, and very boring. There must be at least 100, surely, maybe with DLC included, but I can assure you that if you've done one, you've definitely done them all. Even if you clean up as you go and take the time to pick through everything this game has to offer before continuing to the next stage of the main quest, you'll just keep unlocking so many collectibles over and over. They're all exactly the same. They get slightly harder, but not in a way that's actually challenging, just in a way that means enemies take 6 times longer to die. And you'll spend easily 20 hours of this 30-hour platinum just doing mindless cleanup. All I can say is, if you finish this game and still remember it fondly enough to proudly announce it on r/trophies, then more power to you. Because that collectathon put me off the Spider-Man franchise so badly that I need a 10-year break before I will even look at Miles Morales. Infamous First Light was a spin-off game in the Infamous series, released in 2014 and focusing on a character called Fetch, presumably named by fans of Mean Girls or someone who was trying to train their dog and maybe just got a few too many words ingrained in their mind. It was alright, kind of just a big sandbox with a bunch of collectibles that felt more like a gameplay demo than anything else, but I enjoyed it for what it was and I got through it over the course of a single stream, albeit a stream that finished at 5 AM because I didn't know quite how long this game was going to take. Infamous has a weird platinum, being that it asks you to basically 100% the game, which to me evokes feelings of big 100%, like GTA 5 or Yakuza 0, but it's only a 6-hour game, so you'll be amazed at how quickly you fly through it. And then you get to the battle arena. So one peripheral mechanic or gameplay bit, or whatever you want to call it in Infamous First Light, is the battle arena. The battle arena has tons of modes to play in a ton of different arenas, all with different point requirements and extra little bits and pieces you have to do. Every arena asks you to achieve a score of 500,000, but there are only 5 of them, meaning if you get the minimum in each, you'll only be a quarter of the way to this after all that effort. Top of the class asks you to earn 10 million points, so as you can imagine there's quite a gulf there. Sure, in the Gamma and Beta survival areas you have to survive 30 waves respectively, which might add a chunk to that, and there are also little trophies for getting miscellaneous tasks done like turret overloading and missile kills, but this is a weird grind for such a short, easy game and will probably take another 3 hours or so on top of that initial 100% completion. It's a weird one in a short game, when you know you'll be done with it in a few hours and you'll never have to play it again, and it kind of affects your motivation to perfect it since it's almost pointless. Certainly more trouble than it's worth, at any rate. When you hear the word fighting simulator full of women in sexy outfits, you might gravitate very quickly to a minigame like the JCC, and sure enough I can say my interest was definitely piqued, but what you'll find there is a fate worse than death by boredom. The JCC, or Japanese Catfighting Club, is basically rock paper scissors but with sexy ladies all doing awesome finisher moves with quick time events. Except it's all RNG. That's right, no matter who you pick, no matter their stats, no matter how many times you spam button inputs on command like a trained dog, it comes completely down to luck whether or not you actually win. Sure, there are ways you can raise your luck, or more specifically stop yourself from having no luck. If you ignore QTEs like I started to, since they seemed to have zero bearing on whether or not I actually won, I would always fail them. An ignored QTE is always a failed QTE in the JCC, but even if you do them perfectly, you'll only maybe win. The girls have different strengths against one another, returning to that old rock paper scissors format, but even with that premise, you won't win just because you use a girl that is stronger than your opponent. And for the trophy Cat Scratch Fever, you'll need to bet and successfully win 10 3-round tournaments at the JCC, and your success is going to come down purely to luck over an extended period of time. Bottom line is, this trophy took me 2 full days. I saw all the animations of all the girls several times over, all the outfits, all the finishes, and despite the initial allure of them prancing around in their underwear, it gets real old real fast. And it even gets very annoying as you ace every QTE and pick all the right choices and still lose over and over again. I can assure you that once this dusty bronze trophy is finally out the door, the last place you would ever want to be is the JCC. And that's all for my list of the top 10 trophies that are far more trouble than they're worth. Thanks very much for watching my video. If you've been personally affected by any of the trophies discussed today, I apologise personally for any dredged up trauma. Please feel free to let me know about your own trophies that were barely worth the effort in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please shoot me a like and subscribe to me here on YouTube. I post tons of game reviews, rankings and general discussion, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, make sure you subscribe here so that you don't miss another video from me. Also, if you'd like to see me sweat these trophies in real time, check me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/merkkk for more gaming content. Thanks very much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.